Good morning and welcome to this Wednesday, September 14th edition of Keystroke Live. I'm Dave Hunsinger. I'm not going to mute. We don't have a whole lot of people here, so if you have a question, let me know. Keystroke Live is same information every Wednesday, same login. And today I am talking about the QIR program, which stands for Qualified Integrator and Reseller. It was mandated by Visa. So Visa has said, here's this program, and then it's administrated by the PCI SSC Security Standards Council. So PCI administrates it, but it's mandated by Visa. MasterCard, Discover, American Express haven't really said anything about it. But Visa says you need to have this done. It was originally sometime in 2016, and then they pushed it back to January 31st, 2017. And the program basically requires acquirers, which is like Vantiv or Cayenne, to ensure that merchants who are having Keystroke installed engage only the PCI QIR professionals. And it also requires the acquirers, that's Vantiv and Cayenne, that the merchants annually validate their PCI DSS compliance or participate in what they call the TIP, Technology Innovation Program. And basically what the TIP is either you use a validated point-to-point encrypted solution, which there really aren't any. There's very few, and they're kind of enterprise-wide solutions, so they're not really available to our merchants. That you'll hear them talk about level 4 merchants. That's basically our merchants. I think that's under 1 million Visa transactions a year. But the other requirement of the TIP program is that they process 75% of their transaction via EMV terminals. So in other words, you get out of the annual validation by using EMV terminals. The annual validation is one of those things we're supposed to be doing anyway now, but it's a fairly complicated process. Whether you're doing the SAQ or hiring an assessor, not a lot of merchants do it. Why is there this QIR program? Visa thinks small merchants are still a target and are getting hacked more and more often. They identified these breaches to improperly installed point-of-sale systems. Now, where that kind of disconnects is they're identifying the installation of the point-of-sale system, but it's really the remote access to those point-of-sale systems. So it's resellers that put in access to do updates, to do monitoring, to do backups, to do support, and that those systems are getting compromised. So they say 80% of the breaches of small merchants are because of insecure POS implementations. Now that's from Visa. I don't know how accurate that is, but that is what they're saying. And Visa is basically doing this because they want to ensure the secure payment data. The relationship between QIR and Keystroke. QIR is really set up so that you follow the implementation guide for a PADSS accepted or validated application like Keystroke. And really, if you're using KeyPay, then you use the Keystroke POS, I call it the IG, that's the implementation guide. That's PCI's term for what a software application writes to tell you how to install it in a PCI compliant manner. So we've got a new implementation guide as of June that follows all of the PADSS 3.1. The current one is 3.2, but they haven't published the validation standards for 3.2 yet. It's got things in it like use virus software, lock your front doors, keep track of your clerks, delete clerks that are fired, inspect your terminals and devices, turn off the automatic backup in Windows. There's a whole bunch of requirements in there, what protocols are able to use, and so all of that is piled into the implementation guide. Now, for using Vantiv and doing EMV, that's the VX805 or the Ingenico ISC250, there is an implementation guide for NetEPay. When you're using those solutions, Keystroke isn't the payment application. We don't see any of the payment data. We don't have access to it. So really, the data cap and the NetEPay is your payment application, so you have to adhere to their implementation guide, which is pretty similar to the Keystroke implementation guide. Cayenne, they do have a Genius implementation guide, and if you ever need the NetEPay implementation guide or the Cayenne Genius implementation guide, we have copies of those we can provide you. With NetEPay, it's also available in their documentation on the website where you download NetEPay. The Keystroke implementation guide gets installed with every copy of Keystroke. You'll see when you do the installation, there's a new implementation guide. That box will be check marked, and it'll pop up when you finish the installation so that you can read those 20 pages of detailed information. Now, Cayenne has stated that you don't have to be a QIR when using Genius. That's because, and I'm not sure how this all worked, but they got the Genius qualified as a standalone terminal. So they're saying if you're using a standalone terminal that you plug into your network, it's just like using the Genius that you plug into your network. It's a little bit different because the communication with the Genius is kind of a triangle that we talk to the device, we talk to Cayenne, the device talks to us, the device talks to Cayenne, Cayenne talks to the device, talks to us. So it's not truly standalone, but they've got it qualified as standalone. Also makes the SAQ, which is the Self-Assessment Questionnaire, and typically our merchants are going to use what's called SAQ-C, which is basically for small merchants, and that's a document that you fill out yourself. You're supposed to fill it out. You can submit it to Vantiv or Cayenne. You can keep it on file. It really only comes into play if there's a compromise or breach, and then they're going to say, hey, let me see your completed SAQ. So with the Genius, you can use the SAQ BIP, which is for the standalone terminals, and so it's a little less rigorous. Still a pain to fill out, but a little less rigorous. This might be kind of hard to see on your screen, but this is just the Keystroke POS payment application validation. So we were validated according to PADSS 3.1, and it's good through 2019. And then below it, this little is the QIR certification. So when you're QIR validated, you'll get a little entry like this on the PCI website so that people can look you up and say, yes, you are QIR validated. The other thing that's interesting as part of their marketing agreements is I can say I'm QIR validated, we can say we're PADSS validated, but they don't provide us like a letter saying they validated us, and we can't imply that they endorse us in any way. We're really not supposed to provide people with things saying we're PADSS compliant or we're a QIR. You're supposed to tell people, hey, go to the PCI website, look us up, and that's how you know we're actually validated. So it's very rigorous on how you can use their logo, their terminology, that kind of thing. They're touchy about all that. So to become a QIR, it's administrated by PCI. If you go to their website, it's $395. I did it through RSPA at a discounted rate. Vantiv offers discounted rates. If you're thinking about doing it, you might talk to Vantiv Cayenne, or if you're an RSPA member, they had a program. I think mine was $75 when I did it. You get signed up for a PCI e-learning course. I don't know how much I learned, but it's an e-learning course. And there's about 300 short videos, 6 to 7 hours. The videos are between 30 seconds and 2 minutes. So you can kind of plow through them at your own rate. I signed up, and then over a period of about 2 weeks, I kind of spent maybe 6 hours going through them all, listening to every word of the videos. And then the next week, I maybe spent 2 or 3 hours kind of skipping through them. Yes, I know this. No, I don't know that. Now, it covers a lot of PCI DSS and PA DSS, which was maybe a little easier for me because I'd been doing our PA DSS validation. So I had kind of been living the standard for a year or two when I took this test. So I was familiar with it. The other thing it goes over a lot is there is this QIR implementation report. It's this 4-page document that basically is, here's my name and address, here's the name and address of the customer, here's the application we're installing, here's exceptions I made, here I followed all the rules. So you have this report, you're supposed to fill it out. 10 days later, you're supposed to submit it to PCI. Another big thing they train you on is they want you to give your customer the ability to contact them so they can report on the job you did. So they're very into this quality assurance and giving the merchant the ability to report on you. So that's kind of another part of it that is just interesting on how they handle it all. The exam is administered at testing centers. I went to a local community college to take it, sit down at a computer. I think they give you 90 minutes, and I forget, it's about 60 questions or so, all multiple choice. And you can't take any. You got to put all your wallet and stuff in your pockets in a locker, and they give you like a pencil and a white marker and a whiteboard, and that's all you get to bring in if you want to write stuff down. When you take the test, you can mark questions as review. So you can, I kind of whipped through it and then marked the ones I wanted to go back to and check. When you finish it all, you hit submit, and literally like 1 second later, it popped up, hey, you passed. You'll get a certificate in a week or so, and that was it. I didn't know if I just barely passed or I passed with flying colors. So they don't really let you know, and it would be good to know just because, hey, this is where my knowledge wasn't complete. They had some questions about network setup and DMZ and stuff like that I wasn't as up on as I was the PA DSS and PCI DSS information. And for me, the 90 minutes was plenty of time to take. I wasn't pushed for time. It was just, I wasn't sure if I was right on all the questions. Basically, what do I think about this PCI program? When I talk about PCI, you always have to circle back to it's all about secure payments. The best way to secure payments are end-to-end encrypted devices with tokenization and using EMV for the authentication. That's hands down going to prevent any kind of breach. So really, that's the first step. QIR or not, the end-to-end encryption is where it's at to make payments secure. Remember, EMV adds a little security, but it's really about authentication, that this payment card really belongs to this person standing in front of you. That's what EMV is supposed to do, whereas the end-to-end encryption prevents the data from being breached. Remember, their big focus was on remote access. So secure remote access is definitely a piece to that puzzle as well. If you're doing remote access, make sure it's secure, make sure you're using different passwords for all your different clients, and that that access is beyond question on the level of security there. What's going to happen on January 31st, 2017? I think it's kind of going to go by with a whimper. There's not really a whole lot that's going to happen. A lot of that is because Visa and PCI are not enforcing this program. There's not a requirement to do it. You know, they're hoping that merchants will say, no, I want to have a QIR because that's what Visa said. So really the only kind of penalty that's ever going to happen is if there's a data compromise or a breach. Then they're going to look at it and say, you know, hey, could have this been prevented by following the QIR mandate or PCI mandate? And if that's the case, then yes, they would do some kind of assessment, is what they call it, which is typically a monetary fine. What are the benefits of QIR? Well, it could help close a sale. It could also help you lose a sale if you're dealing with the client and say, well, yeah, hey, you can go find me on the PCI. I'm QIR validated. Or, you know, the customer might say, hey, well, I went with this other guy because they were QIR validated and you aren't. I've talked to the few people I know, you know, there's maybe 4 or 5 keystroke dealers that are QIR validated right now. And I've said, you know, have you gotten a phone call from somebody saying I called you because I saw you on the QIR site, or has it helped you with sales or marketing? And they've said, no, it hasn't done a thing. Yeah, I'm on the list. It's nice to tell people, but that is really it. And if I'm not an expert on this, I'm just passing along my experience having gone through PADSS validation and the QIR, so that it's not so much of this big mystery. But if you want all the complete information, you can visit the PCI securitystandards.org website. Also visa.com, you can go to the small merchant thing or small merchant area, and they'll have, you know, their mandate about this. So how Visa sets it up that really the acquirer is supposed to enforce it, well, the acquirer is the person making money off of your merchant. So they're not going to tell your merchant, hey, you can't process, because then they're not going to make that money. So it's kind of a weird system that it's supposed to be enforced by the acquirers, but the acquirers are going to be pretty lax because they want people processing as many credit cards as possible. But really what it goes back to is that end-to-end encryption, doing EMV, is really the wave of the future and where things are going. So that is all I have to say right now. And if anybody has any questions about PCI or QIR, I would see if I can give you an answer here.
How about something else, Dave?
Okay, or something else.
Debit PIN with Vantiv.
Vantiv has told me third quarter, which is July, August, September. So, you know, I think they'll be, you know, originally they said, oh, I think it's going to be before that. The complicated explanation I got was they have changed the way debit PIN works when they went to EMV. It used to be you send the debit transaction to the processor just grabs it and then says, okay, I'm going to feed this to Pulse or Star or whoever the debit network is and approve it. With EMV, the device itself, or not the device itself, but the acquirer itself, can't just send it to a gateway. They have to go directly to each individual debit network, Star, Pulse, whatever they all are, so that it's a lot more complicated to get all of those major networks in sync with their processing. So that's how it was explained to me, and why it's taking more time is it's not just one smooth integration like it is for credit cards. You have to do all of this different processing. And part of the deal is on that EMV card, there's the chip, and then they call them AID, application IDs, that run on the chip. And so any card, it could have 1, it could have 6 different AIDs on it. But there's typically an application for credit, an application for debit, maybe an application if it's an EBT card. Some might have an application for signature credit and PIN credit, and signature debit and PIN debit. So there's a lot of different little programs that can run on that card. And so the Vantiv has to be able to understand what that program's doing and direct it to the right network. So hopefully soon, I guess, is the short answer.
Okay. I have one more question if nobody else does.
Oh, go right ahead, Sid.
So as much as I love talking to all of the different Seans from Cayenne in Ireland, can you, I have asked them to notify us when they're going to do an update of the Cayenne devices. So I don't know if you're aware of, they just did a device update, and it's random the way they do it. And unfortunately what they did is the update took away the little dots when you're typing in the PIN number. Are you aware of that?
No.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal, except customers freak out when they don't see that number. So what you have to do is call Cayenne again and ask them to do another update. They fixed it, but they won't do it until you call them. So what I've asked them to do, can you give us a list, because they do have a list of our customers, when you do those updates, so that I know I'm going to get those calls, because I've been getting a lot of them.
Yeah, and usually when they do an update, I get a announcement maybe 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, and I reply to it and say, hey, update my device, and then we kind of test it all, and then I forget about it. And so that's a good key for me, that maybe we'll forward along an email to dealers saying, hey, Cayenne's doing an update in the next couple weeks, watch out.
Yeah, because I don't have a Cayenne device, so I don't get those updates, and that's what I've just let me know so I can be prepared.
And I'm curious, did you get an email this morning, about the handheld Genius device? Or I don't know if just I got that. But we're supposedly first on the list to get a new wireless Genius device, and we haven't seen it yet, but they sent out an announcement about it being available today. So
nope.
I always try to talk to them and say, hey, don't send that out if it's really not available.
I did not.
So they jumped the gun on that information, but that's something else that's in the pipeline with Cayenne. Is it's a it kind of looks like a cell phone, but you can sign on it, do EMV transactions, but it's cordless. It's a Wi-Fi device.
Cool.
So that should be coming too.
Okay. Well, that's it. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. Any other questions?
Dave, this is Pat.
Hey, Pat.
I just want to make a comment about Vantiv. They've really dropped the ball on the integration that I need in grocery. And it's forced my grocers to go to either First Data or WorldPay. And, I'm very frustrated with Vantiv. It's cost us a tremendous amount of residuals, needless to say.
And where are they dropping the ball with the groceries? Is it?
Well, the EMV, first off, hardly any information coming down the channel, but right now, WIC integration with just about anybody. Colorado just implemented electronic WIC, and my grocers that take WIC didn't have a choice. They were not able to, Vantiv kept saying that they were working on it and it would be available, just like you were saying. They said something about third quarter for whatever, but they never came through. I have one more store to provide that integration. That was a Mercury customer that was, close to $300 a month. And they went to First Data about 18 months ago. And I just wanted to make that comment, blowing off steam maybe, whatever you want to call it, but it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
Their service is really gone downhill too.
Yeah, I mean, every time I talk to them about the service, they say, "Oh, well, we've added new reps. We've added new reps." Well, I don't know what's happening to all these new reps they've added, but it is hard to get through from time to time.
Yeah, that's not really just them either. I know WorldPay, I've had some problems with that same thing.
Yeah, and remember, there is Molly if you need her extension. She's usually pretty easy to get a hold of. And you can kind of shake the tree and she can get in touch with the right people.
Well, it's our merchants that really need the service.
Yeah, that's true.
That's, it's really those people that need the phone to be answered and not put on hold for a half hour to an hour.
Yeah.
They become very, very frustrated. And, I'm the first call they make after that.
Yep.
But I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, and that's, I think they made the comment to me that, well, we've got the hold times to below 45 minutes. And it's like, 45 minutes is still a long time.
Yeah, that's really something to brag about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I know they're working on it.
But I do really appreciate the information you've given on this webinar.
Yeah, and we're in the same boat as you, is that people can't get through to Cayenne or Mercury, so they call us, and we're like, well, we don't know what your merchant ID is or this or that, and but we're easier to get a hold of, just like you are. So I know how that goes.
Yep. I appreciate this, Dave.
Oh,
really good information.
Thanks for attending, and thank you, everyone. Next week is Mike Tabor with Tech Tips. He's going to have more information about